Hey, yo, it's me, Pops Van Marmalade, and you're watching the Comics-Related Madness Network. Huh? So come get some. CromCon. CromCon.
Hey, we want to shout out to our sponsors, Daytona Beach Comic Con. If you are a fan of comic books, if you're a fan of comic book conventions, and if you like meeting comic book creators and getting comics and comic-related stuff, then you need to make your plans to attend Daytona Beach Comic Con. This year's show is September 7th and 8th. Silverline will be there, so you should make your plans to be there too. We'll see you there. If you like comics and find yourself in the Orlando, Florida area, doesn't everyone come to Orlando at some point in time to see the House of Mouse? But when you're here, you need to make it a point to visit Coliseum of Comics, especially the one on East Colonial Drive. They carry Silverline Comics, even a limited edition Coliseum of Comics version of our comics. So, when you go, be sure to ask for Silverline Comics and tell them we sent you. OCD stands for Orlando Collector Deviants. OCD, Steve and Trish, they're a family of geeks who promote geek things, particularly those around the Orlando, Florida area. They're big supporters of Silverline, and we think you should be supporters of theirs too. Go give them some love. If you are an independent comic book maker and you need to get your independent comics made, you need to look no further than Kablam Digital Printing. They print our books, and they do a bang-up job. They're not only trusted by Silverline, but many independent comic book makers. Head on over to kablam.com and see for yourself just how easy it is to have your comic printed by them. And tell them Silverline sent you.
Hi, this is Tim TK, host of That Silverline Show on Tuesday. Join us at 11 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Pacific every Tuesday night as we discuss pop culture and the joys of making comics.
Hi, I'm Barb Kilber, co-host of Silverline's Wednesday Wham. Join us each Wednesday nights as we discuss comics, literature, movies, and anything else that may catch our attention.
I'm Roland Mann, and I host Silverline's Silver Sunday. Join me every Sunday at 8 p.m. Eastern as we make mine Silverline.
Hello, Internet. Welcome to That Silverline Show on Tuesday. I'm your host, Tim TK, and I'm joined, as always, by Jose Fuentes.
Hello, everyone.
In a new location.
Right. Undisclosed location. Evidently, I'm in Whitsack, and I have to keep moving.
Yes. Well, we'll run a tally at the end on how many backgrounds we have by...
Right.
Yeah. But this is That's Everyone's Show on Tuesday. We are the well, I'd say any of the streams are really professional, but we're the even more low effort show. And tonight we're going to be talking about comics and color theory. I'll be coming at this from the perspective as the writer, as well as a traditional and miniature painter, a competition miniature painter, and Jose, of course, is coming at this from the eyes of being an artist.
That's what I keep telling people.
Yes. I am still a little phlegmy. We were out last week because most of our talent was either sick or unlocated or relocating. So I'm still a little phlegmy, so I may need to pause for a cool and refreshing LaCroix break. LaCroix, please sponsor us. But yeah, there you go. So yes, we haven't really got a chance to talk since last week, Jose. So obviously, in the middle of bouncing locations and changing setups, but what kind of work have you been doing? What have you been doing to keep busy? Comics, otherwise?
Mostly working on stuff for Obsoletes 2. Every now and again, trying to get some inks done for Cat and Mouse, and trying to keep my sanity.
Yeah, it's understandable. Yeah, I haven't had too many comics related projects come across my desk, so I've been working on marketing copy and web design for other clients in the day job. So that's been what I've been doing in the meantime, other than trying to breathe and not pass away.
That's the thing, right?
Yeah. Yeah, we almost had a panic because I play at a, speaking of miniature painting, I play at a game store, and the owner and his daughter, who run the shop, both tested positive for COVID, and then like turned back at him. Then 5 other people at the shop did as well, and it was like the day after I'd been there. So
Wow.
yeah, thankfully it tested
Are
negative.
we
But
to a point yet where we can do like a COVID party, like back in the day they used to
oh
do
my god,
with chicken pox? Are we there yet?
yeah, I don't know.
Man,
Yeah, it almost felt like it was turning into one. Just some people,
right, sometimes.
yeah. You know, we're all good. So we're going to talk about color theory. So back in the old days, when you had the traditional 4 to 5 person setup on each on a book, and we still do this at Silverline, but the colorist is their own job entirely. Now a lot of indies and even some of the bigger productions, the illustrator might handle the colors, or even at some points I've seen cases where it bounces back to the writer, who colors and letters at the same time, usually if the writer has experience also as an illustrator. First I'll grab your experience with this, Jose. I imagine you had to go through I mean, what I'm saying. So you normally do inking, illustrating, that type of stuff. But have you colored before? Have you experienced coloring or school, professionally, casually?
Before school, before I went to art school, I actually colored a book for Pickle Press out of Indiana. I colored a fantasy book for them, and I did that without. Okay, so I should probably preface with, you don't have to go to art school to be in comics. Someone actually asked me that question this week, and like I should preface and say that you don't have to go to art school, but if you really want to know what you're doing, you probably should.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, because I knew how to color before I went to art school, but when I went to art school, I learned how to color properly,
Yeah.
and it made a world of difference.
I will say,
you have to go to school, but you should.
Yeah. Similarly, if you're looking to write comics, you don't need to go to a liberal arts school to get a creative writing degree, but it does help.
Right.
I'm saying, although I will say, now, depending on the school selection area, you almost might be better off going to community colleges, because community colleges can have more fun electives. And I've seen a lot more community colleges have actual comic writing classes tied into their associates of creative writing.
That's interesting. I didn't know.
Yeah, whereas a lot of like traditional liberal arts schools now, their bachelor's of creative writing is, strictly literature and no genre to work. So
Right.
do some hunting on the classes, because if you can save money and also get a targeted class for comics by going to community college, that's the route I'd recommend.
Right, especially if that's what you're trying to do, if that's what you're trying to get into.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So you've done some coloring professionally. Have you done any color work recently?
I did. I colored Peter Clinton's Last Witchfinder, issue 0. And I'm
Nice.
going to be coloring issue 1 after he's done with it.
Very cool. And Peter Clinton is, of course, behind me right now. Or I am Peter Clinton, yes. Still have his sign up. At some point, I may get rid of it, but remove it in the garage or something. Yeah. I have not illustrated or colored any comics myself. Like I said, my experience is coming at this from someone who has done traditional painting, like on canvas, and also done miniature and bust painting for competition. So doing the best armies type stuff, painting for Warhammer and Battletech and all that fun stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
You should probably also interject with that color theory was it the science of using color in art, basically.
Yes. Yeah. So coloring so we're going to talk about color theory in general, which is why the painting experience also comes up, because that's where color theory originated. It's the ideas of not just knowing what colors look good, although, at a certain subconscious level, that's all it really is. But it's kind of mixing the schools of psychology and aesthetics to figure out what colors mean what, how they best complement each other. Can use colors to symbolize things or to convey moods. I don't know if we'll get into the color wheel, but that's also a whole other thing.
Well, that's a whole nother stream altogether. Just talking about the color wheel and primary colors and secondaries and tertiaries and that's a whole man.
And they also get into my favorite thing as a painter is doing natural gradients. So getting one color and then like mixing it with 3 shades of gray, a white, and a black, and then create your own gradient from there to blend it all together. You get like a fraction of a canvas that looks super clean, but you have to mix things 15 times to get it.
And some people it works pretty good for them. I think I remember Megan Hetrick. I think everyone has like 2 or 3 cones in their eyes in regards to like how they see color. Some people, and I believe I remember her mentioning she has 4. So she actually sees things a little more vibrant than everybody else, which really shows in like her work when she does her contrasting colors or her complementary colors to emphasize her highlights.
Yeah. What was it? I'm trying to figure out.
Like I'm not quite sure about how many, but I know she has an extra more than anyone else.
But just kind of made me think of, have you heard about the mantis shrimp?
Is that the one that can underwater that can crack a walnut?
Yeah, it can crack a walnut. It has 12 cones in its eyes. Yeah. So
that's the one like makes like it boils the water around it with as fast as it moves to hit.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah.
Is that the one? Yeah.
It boils the water.
Awesome.
Yeah, and it can see in UV, which is insane. So don't have too many pre-prepared questions for this one because it is in true art school fashion, it's going to be all vibes here. So obviously, like in art in general, there's a bunch of different schools of thought for everything, but you'll have a lot of people who say that color theory does not matter at all. It's all based off of what you feel as the artist and what the audience interprets as their thing, and whatever happens. And people say that theory is important because if you know the rules, you know when to break them or how to get.
Well, I was gonna say, people that say that color theory doesn't matter, use color theory.
Exactly. And that's the thing is that people say it because you're subconsciously using color theory anyway, so you might as well learn the science behind it, and to help kind of give you guidelines on how to get certain effects across, or to know when to break rules, and if you're creating a complementary piece, when to use a contrast and all the other stuff.
Right, and how to. You don't have to like say throw in gray specifically as a shadow. You can play with other colors, layer the complementary colors on themselves. You know what I mean, to create your shadow effect that you're doing.
Yeah,
it's pretty fun. Like once you understand it, and there's a lot. Like if someone were to book you with it, right, and basically it's like here, right, it's a little overwhelming, I think, but like. After you go through it and you see it in practical use, it actually makes sense.
And I guess in kind of a recent example I have of using color theory in that way. There was a piece I did recently where it was on commission and they wanted something that was violently pink, like aggressively pink, but to create kind of idea of where light source was, and I wanted to create different layers of shadows across the face of a figure. So the upper shadows, we used a a closely related red and then a darker red to create a shadow that's still being illuminated, essentially.
Yeah.
And then we did use a gray. I used a gray coming down to like underneath the jaw point where like you might cut out a lot of sunlight. So you end up creating this cool depth between the shadows. So you still get a shadowed effect, but it's multiple ways of creating that a shadow.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
yeah, and I mean, for coloring anything, honestly, I still like will refer back to the color wheel, and then I'll just sit here kind of run my hand across it, like, because that sounds funny, but there's an app and it connects with, I can't remember what it's called, Cooler. I think it's called Cooler. Maybe Cooler is the Pantone selector. But it's in that vein. It works with Photoshop. And what it does is it opens up like a secondary like toolbar that if you want to pick a color and you want to add like 3 color complementary colors and whatnot, it'll open up like it'll like highlight circles, and as you move one, it moves the other ones to the proper complementary selection, right? And so you can use that to create a color palette.
Yeah.
So like say you want green, you know what I mean, and then let's say was it red? I'd have to look at a color wheel. I really don't know. But yeah, you do green and then you want like a red and something else, you know what I mean? You would create that and then select it, and it creates like layers and values within those colors so that you can use them to complement or to do your shadows and highlights, just like to make your piece more cohesive.
Yeah, that's really cool. And I looked up it. There is on the App Store, the Apple App Store, there is a app called Cooler, which
okay.
Yeah.
I can't believe I remember the name.
Yeah. Yeah, that's cool. And and that's creating and painting what we call the blend. Essentially, is you select your mid-tone and you get the highlight and the low light there. But color theory can also be used to create your broad palette, your project palette, or when you get into talking comics, your panel palette, or even if the book may have a specific look to it. And that can be dictated by color theory depending on the mood you want to convey. Using cool tones versus warm tones. Cutting back to an example from my book Wolf Hunter, we wanted to use we wanted to make it like your Euro comic, so we wanted to use a form of surrealism, so use warm tone pastels. So everything was the color is in real life, but perhaps a bit more aggressively that way. And allows for sort of cuts of pastels that will either block out panels entirely, that will, because it's tied into the rest of it's cohesive, like you said, with the rest of the piece. And the cut in is abrupt, but it feels like it belongs. So you end up being the part where.
Well, you guys used it to tone down some of the colors, right? Because I don't feel it was as vibrant as like say comics are, like American comics are.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
and that's whereas you get a lot of punchy primaries in American comics. It's almost like American comics are painting with acrylic and Euro comics are painting with ink. Yeah, where it's just a lot of flat pastels where if there is shading, it's done with almost just like a black wash over it, as opposed to creating the traditional blend. Their blending does exist, but it exists more. The colorscape is more so flattened against the subject. So yeah, I guess we'll go into that. When you're, I don't know if you have any experience, have you used color theory or been given guidance along those lines to change the colors of a book to give it a distinctive vibe, as opposed to just going straight realism? Or
so I don't necessarily. I mean, in comparison to say Wolf Hunter, I definitely like prefer my more vibrant colors,
Mhm.
except for when I'm doing there's a couple pages in, actually most of the pages in the last Wishfinder, where it was set in like a candlelit like tavern, like a candlelit
Yeah.
like altar, right? And so certain spots got hit with some hotness, right? Other spots, like I took I took tones like I think so. The stone was more of a grayish green, you know what I mean, in this room. And then there are the candles that were lighting it. And I did candles traditional yellow and white, but then all the shadows that rode up it were purple
Oh yeah.
because I wanted to, because using purple it still gave it a more like gloomy, a kind of broody kind of color. And to me, that softened everything else so that the focus were the candles lighting up the altar situation.
Yeah.
So I go into it, with the idea that um that can I use I know sometimes I use quite more color than I probably should because I know for comics you want to tone down the colors. But back in the day when things were done in was it full color printing,
Yeah.
you had to tone down the colors. You had to like, okay, this is why Spider-Man was like all red with some black, right? And then the shadows on him were like halftones, like Zipatone, right? And but now with everything being like a digital print, you can be a little more liberal with the colors that you're throwing in. So like I try to be liberal so that I can use it to set the mood or to set direction.
Okay. Yeah, definitely. And uh, when you're working on a book, then do you find that sometimes, well, depending on the I guess the tone of the writer, but do you find that sometimes going panel to panel or page to page, you have to change the overall like a color tone to match mood or to convey a mood?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So the second issue and I don't think anybody other than just a couple people actually know about this, but the second issue for my Gothic Western, the whole book starts with like a yellow tone, and as it goes across the pages all the way to the end, it starts to be almost like a sunset.
Oh
So
yeah.
like if you were to flip through each page, it's like yellow, yellow, orange, 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 red, red, purple at the end. You know what I mean? So actually, color like the overlaying color over at each page had like a yellow hue to it, a yellow hue to it, orange hue to it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And funny enough, I didn't even come up with that one. The artist that did it for me did. And he was like, oh yeah, I just had this idea of like there because issue two is a big fight scene, and I just thought it was great to highlight that with the once I get to the fight scene, it's like reddish, and so like that red inspires like violence and whatnot. Red,
Yeah.
because you know what I mean, because he's playing off like the emotions, you know, um, and the colors that coincide with them. You know what I mean? So by the end, he's like that's more like a serene and whatnot, like the end of the fight, like holy crap, we made it through this.
That's
So
dope. Yeah, I
yeah.
love it. Yeah, and that's also what I liked about Martin. Martin did with Wolfenried. I like if you're making a comic, I feel like it's such a good playground to do something. This might be a liberal arts in me again, but to do something experimental or do something, beyond just the scope of your normal comic experience with it. But especially if you're not beholden to an existing universe or
Right.
like the Marvel tone, you're like just do something weird and creative with it. Be experimental. Um, either in the colors or in the line work or what have you. I think comics are such a fun playground to mess with any one of those factors or all of them.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, as artists, even as writers, like you write a story, and then when you go into one, that's my cat. Sorry, when you go into writing the next issue, you know what I mean. You don't necessarily want to like blow it out of the water like the first one didn't matter, but you definitely want to make some changes, some tweaks, like oh, what if I did this? You know what I mean? What if I laid the timing of the panels this way? You know what I mean? Like I can see that as a writer, like that's important, right? You do the
Yeah.
same thing in color, right? You can do that, like I said, the Flash is always like what, red and yellow. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So like in your mind, anybody that knows who the Flash is, knows that if you see streaks of red and yellows, oh, that's someone running fast. That's the Flash. You know, it's just like the culture as a whole has like taught us to like see things in that nature. You
Yeah.
know, so if you see anything that's red and blue, you know, not so much red, white, and blue, but red and blue, you're gonna think, oh, Paragon hero. You're gonna think Superman. You have to Captain America. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, like you can use colors to convey moods, like I said earlier, where like, you know, a sense of red might convey a sense of violence or something like that. But because our brains like creating patterns, because, you know, we're pattern hunters, we're in the caveman days. You can also use that strong sense of color to create an identifiable pattern with your characters or with a concept that you want to come back to. You know, the something that like got baked into us from adventure stories and comics and movies from the 50s onwards is if someone opens up a chest and it starts glowing on their face, there's gold in it.
Right.
Yeah.
Or something of value, because what was it? Pulp Fiction did that same thing with what was supposed to be, what's his name's soul, right?
Yeah.
But that had the same concept. When you open up the briefcase, it was like this glow that came out of it, right? So like, yeah, like it's to denote something of value.
Yeah, definitely. It's like with Wolf Hunter, it's kind of minute when we just did and we'll see if it carries through the second issue. But what something I liked is there's a moment where James Willard first wakes up after the incident that starts off the series. He gets shot down, and we get the first sense that he's developed some sort of PTSD and it happens with him laying on the bed in the field hospital. And, you know, part of the joys of, you know, Euro pastels, we punch out the background to just plain red while leaving his face in normal colors. Kind of the idea of like we're creating a sense of shock. And so we have the visual cues of like you can kind of do stuff in his handshakes and comics. You can create motion lines to show that someone's hand is trembling. To, you know, convey sense that even if he's not willing to talk about it to himself, his body is telling him is like you have post-traumatic stress that I'm trying to work out right now. And so you'll get little cuts of red along with those episodes, essentially. Just conveying that same identity all the way forward. Yeah. So I guess anything in particular on color theory that you want to hit on, or the things that you think are cool that you want to explore with the subject?
Well, as much as, you know, you say like I said, you know, you should learn your color theory. You should not be browbeat with it, but definitely like go into it with an open mind. Listen, like, hey, listen, somebody's teaching you this, or even if you're doing it on your own. Sorry, it's my eye.
There you go.
Take the time to you know, give it a whirl, to understand why it's already been established as it is.
Mm-hmm.
And then if you have to break it, break it.
Yeah.
You know?
And that's like the like kind of the same thing for writing. You have the rule of the explainer where you do everything you can to give your role to internal logic, but some of that logic can literally just be we give a throwaway line to explain something that's all right. My favorite example of this is in Iron Man 1. There is absolutely no way that Tony Stark should be able to create an arc reactor in a Taliban prison camp.
Right.
But the explainer line, Obadiah Stane says, like, well, how can you do this? And the guy says, well, he's Tony Stark. Okay, that's internal logic. It makes sense. And
that's the suspension of disbelief.
Exactly. So, you know, if you're a writer and you create your own terminology, but you have something cool in there, go ahead and put something cool in there. You're making the thing. Same thing if you're a colorist or working with colors, is you do your blending and everything like that. But if you want to throw in a weird highlight or a weird shadow, go ahead and do that. It's your thing.
Right.
Yeah.
Like read the graphic novel Batmite. And I think it's called Mightfall. And a human guy goes into the Batmite universe, and the colors there are like just wonky. And it's not even like, I don't know, like anybody that knows like D&D, like when you think of like say the Feywild, which is like where fairies and stuff like that live,
Yeah.
you think vibrant colors for the most part, right? Like
Sure. Yeah.
iridescent, like vibrant, hallucinogenic colors. In Batmite's universe, it was like there's a trapezoid of this color over here for just no reason whatsoever, with like some stuff going over like this colors that don't make any sense of it, but it made sense to show you the chaos in that particular universe, right? It using or breaking the color theory, breaking that logic on that particular book, helped to emphasize just how crazy zany it was supposed to be. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's like another, like I said, just learn your color theory, then learn how to break it, how not to use it, if you don't want to. But even when you're not using it, if you've learned to use it, you cannot use it properly. I know that sounds really weird, but that's
Yeah.
like I
Absolutely.
swear I'm not talking on my butt. I sort of know what I'm talking about.
Yeah. Well, it kind of ties into, co building, especially for comics, is can be an essential part of world building because comics are a mostly visual experience, and in world building, there's a concept called the triangle of weird. And the idea is that in order to have a world that is somewhat believable, you have your people, location, and rules. And one of those needs to be grounded, and the other two can be absolutely insane. Or you can have
Right.
one that is completely over the top bonkers, and the other two are grounded. And so, like something like that, where at this moment we're making the colors absolutely bonkers, but it works and it has impact because maybe the couple pages before everything made sense, or this one character, their colors make sense, but everything else doesn't. And not only does that, the reason why this kind of helps things work is it makes that they have impact. You're not just creating visual diarrhea for someone to try and slough through. Yeah.
No visual diarrhea. You don't want that. That's not good.
Yeah, definitely. So I guess then we'll go ahead.
You use like when you paint your minis, you paint them according to like you still use basically the color wheel when you do that as well, contrasting and complementing your colors.
Yeah.
Right. You don't just take them and then paint. Well, this is how they look in this particular thing. It's exactly what I'm going to do. Right. You do your own thing with them.
Yeah. I have a couple units of Ultramarines, which I had to do up to like a parade standard spec for a thing. But other than that, most things are stuff. Oh, I don't have my. We have a separate studio space where we film gaming content and take photos and stuff. And I have my Stormcast over there that are all painted up. But I have a group of Stormcasts that normally in all the art and stuff, they're painted gold and blue standard, like fantasy heroes, right? I thought because they had like a whole lightning vibe, and the fact that they when they come into battle, they're sent on lightning strikes, and then when they die, they get sent back in a lightning blast up to their home realm to get reforged. And to me, that always seemed a little bit like getting de-resed in Tron. So I'm like, what if I made them like synth wavy? So I used a lot of I used the green to blue transition So your aqua, teal, all that in there to create their scope. So
Right.
giving them their accents were this bright neon green, and then their base thing was a teal, and then part of knowing when to break your card theory is knowing when you can make jumps that make sense. So instead of going straight to blue, I jumped blue and went to purple to give them a dark blue, purple secondary,
Right.
and then grounded that in black with sort of black connecting pieces. So you end up getting this thing that looks like it's been. I guess actually I have some that are base coated at least. I don't know how well it's selling, but it's kind of dark.
Right.
But yeah, and doing that makes it look like they've been rendered on like a Commodore 64 essentially, because you have these
Right.
these bright jumps of colors and then a transition which looks like it skips a step because that's intentional. And so and everything is so punchy, but you have the black sitting under it all to ground it. And
Right.
then you can do fun things in there, like in comics and traditional painting, this is the shading. I haven't seen a comic use a true metallic. I guess unless they they have. I guess there's some panels where they try to use like kind of a glittery effect, but it doesn't.
That's hard to.
It's hard to do.
It's hard to print. Yeah,
Yeah.
'cause it doesn't. You're not going to get that same effect. They have done it with covers, like using like that effect. Using was it a? It's not a holographic. Well, there's a holographic one.
It's
But
holographic.
It's like it's almost like a foil, but like a crystallized foil that they've done. Like there's an issue of the Hulk where it's the Hulk and the leader, and I think it's Betty is encased in crystal, and all that crystal is literally like the crystallized foil pattern for that particular part of the cover.
I know, I think the closest thing you get to it really is using the color shifting foil, because I know there's been a few things with the Jubilee where they did that in the panel. Yeah.
Because that's what her power and her sync.
Yeah.
When they show syncing up to another mutant, it's like this rainbow iridescent like aura that attaches itself to someone. You know what I mean? And they've tried to do that too. Like they tried to make that.
Yeah. It goes well, Stiletto. Thank you. Hopefully you're doing well as well. So for the blocks I used then I guess the benefit of then painting in a physical form. So for the blocks I then used a true metallic set in a clear coat acrylic. So you just ended up getting a shimmer effect over the black without actually creating a new layer on top of that. So so it I'll have to let me do something real quick here. But yeah, essentially
I actually have a brush that I bought when I was in art school because Fernando Ruiz whipped it out for a demonstration.
Okay.
And it's clear, but it has like glitter flecks in it, right?
Oh yeah.
So what you do is you do your color. If you're doing like commission pieces or comp pieces, you want to like whip something out with some color. Say you want to like put some glitter or some effect like to make it pop and make it shine or whatever. You know what I mean? You can take that brush and run it across whatever you want, and so then you just kind of twist the paper to the light. You'll see the flecks shining. It's pretty awesome.
Okay, let me do this. The things you can do just by changing up the brush it's great. I just recently got a new type of dry brush, and that is fantastic. Okay, here we go. That. Yeah, so like you have the things that make sense, right? You have the green to dark green transitioning through the teal. We skip the teal to purple so we don't get a blue, and then black ties it, and the pink is it's kind of a compliment to all that, but also it contrasts the black.
Right. I feel every time I see this, I feel like I should be hearing the Flash Gordon theme song.
Yeah, and that's the idea. Is that like when you hear it, you should be hearing like the something from Flash Gordon or the
Right.
or the Knight Rider theme or something like that. It should feel synthwavy.
Right.
And then another form of shading you can do, which is creating the glaze, which is you just take the base color and water it down. In comics now, you just take the same color and make it semi-opaque or semi-transparent.
Right.
Yeah, so that's the idea, is that you learn all things of color theory, so you figure out, okay, I can skip blue and just completely jump to purple because I have a grounding thing here. So the theory all checks out, and you know when exactly to create the weird punch to it.
It allows you to branch out just a little bit away from like the patterns, the proper patterns.
Yeah. I guess. Oh, do you have any examples, shown or not shown, of times you've used color theory to break the set patterns or to?
I have nothing.
Okay.
Everything is packed up.
That's fair.
So just a little note to everyone. Me and my family are displaced because we had mold in the house that we were living in, so we had to leave. So now we kind of been bouncing from Airbnb to Airbnb with just the essentials of what we need to go from one to the other, while everything else is potted away.
That's the at least we have you with you, and at least you have a roof over your head. So
well, yeah, the first stream I did after being displaced was in a hotel. Like I couldn't hardly hear anything. I had to talk really low.
Right. That's a good thing that wasn't another vampire game. Otherwise, it would have been terrible.
Oh man.
Definitely. Well, even if you can't show us, is there like a example of that off the top of your head, or even one that you've encountered that you didn't do, but one that you found that you really liked, just the way that they played the color theory?
I like I said, I like the break away from with the Batmite story. Like that one's like one that like really sticks in my head. And honestly, anything that was it that Walt Simonson worked on. Not that he colored it, but anything Walt Simonson, any Thor stuff that Walt Simonson did, when they depicted Asgard, you had like the Rainbow Bridge and whatnot, but the colors were always like very complementary. Like to me, everything in the background made everything, all the buildings and like the castles and stuff like that just pop. And then there's some pieces that one of my teachers would do, where he would take acrylic paint and like dilute it and then paint with it as if it were watercolor, and it gave these real, like everyone like a while everyone was getting like these rainbow splash tattoos and whatnot.
Oh
and he was able to emulate that on paper or on canvas, so that was really cool. But those are really the things that came to mind. Put me on the spot, Tim. How do you make me think like that? I should have came more prepared.
Right. Let's see.
But let's see.
Didn't you look up? People forgetting.
Yeah, like almost everything that I focus my brain power on is like inking stuff. Like I do, like specifically because I'm working on inking stuff.
Right.
So like I keep in my brain is inking stuff. Like once I go into colors stuff, I'm pulling up references of what I like. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, that's cool. Like this armor from this particular time, you know what I mean, needs to be this color. You know what I mean? Like it's made out of this. So, but like I like doing off the wall, like not so much off the wall, but like more not use, like I said before, not so much using gray, but more using other colors to create like the shadows on pictures and stuff like that. Shadows on pieces.
Yeah, definitely. That's dope. I guess then we'll go into some more practical application. So we kind of talked about it a little bit, but not too much in depth. One of the psychological aspect of color theory is the idea that colors can all be tied to a mood or emotion in the public zeitgeist because humans are weird pack animals. And so we kind of get the classic blue is sad, red is angry, gold has value, all this other stuff. So obviously you're doing something that's a bit more like artistic side. You might be able to like really punch in a panel, make it super blue or something that you want to convey an emotion that pull on those colors, or even if you're trying to create a sense of suspense at night instead of doing a form of shadowed, like not realistic shadows or everything that have their same base color and then you'll darken it down. You might get panels where essentially everything becomes blue and black because you're creating you're creating an upset in there. You're using the triangle of weird to create a new emotional trigger. So in your experience, how guess are there books where you would go really hard in using colors to push an emotion, books where you wouldn't, and maybe you just include a few trigger shades here and there? Do you have a preference on how deep you want to go on either side of that?
So I, like you said, different like logics for different books. I feel like books that have more like suspense, like more like keep you on the edge of your seat kind of reading. You know what I mean? Like, oh man, what's going to happen? To me, I kind of enjoy the idea of the main characters, whatever the antagonist protagonists are, like they have a particular panel or that particular page, their colors pretty much stay the same, but then you fiddle with like the foreground and the background. Because if you like have say there's a violent something going on, you have more reds in the background, or sorry, in the foreground, and then you dilute that into a different color in the background. That to me, that's going to make the character, because it's different colors to denote different emotions. You know what I mean? Even if like say you do it as a gradient, which you do, but I never just keep the gradient. I always break it up with something because it just I was taught, don't make it look like you use the filters if you use the filters. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you always break it up and whatnot. Like even if you like say you augment your gradient, like to do it at angles, you're directing the reader even with the colors, not just the lines and the angles of the art. You can do that with the colors as well. And you can ideally you can direct their emotions doing the same thing. You know what I mean? When things get bleak, you know what I mean, you want your colors to help like convey that feeling.
Definitely.
You know what I mean? You don't want to sit there and like all of a sudden, mob of zombies are surrounding your protagonist, and then you want a bunch of pinks and purple, or pinks and like lavender and stuff like that's not gonna convey the emotion you're trying to establish, or complement the art with the color to give that the emotion you're trying to convey. You know what I mean? You don't. That was just, oh my gosh, that would be so bad.
Yeah, I mean, you can kind of use that if you're exactly like kind of the reason why you want to learn color theory, right, is because everything has to be intentional, because that's how the reader is going to encounter it. At least everything has to seem intentional. Which is why, we said at the top of the show, even people who say you don't need color theory are using it subconsciously.
Yeah.
They probably just have.
They're using it to show that they're not using it. They really, truly.
Yeah. I mean, if you want to the contrast of the pinks and lavenders, the new Suicide Squad movie, where they use a lot of harsh contrast to show the fact that Harley has undergone a psychotic break with reality.
Right.
So the moment where she's running through the
hallway, specifically, yeah.
Yeah. So when the moment you get to her like running through the hallway, and she's massacring people with sphere, and flowers and stuff, yeah. And that's not just color theory, but it's whole like graphic design stuff of like creating weird contrasts to show that there is something almost unsettling about this person right now, because that such a harsh contrast doesn't jive naturally with the way we want to organize things. But because, you know, they keep the other things grounded, we understand, oh, this is intentional. And this is made a choice. Yeah.
And then like a real simple version of that as well is in like movies, was it Schindler's List, right? The little girl with the red balloon.
Yeah.
Right. That's to denote a specific feeling across that particular, you know what I mean? To move along. And then in the end, or towards the end, you know what I mean, when you see what happens. I'm not gonna give it away, people. Go watch Schindler's List. It's amazing.
That movie's been,
if you haven't seen it, gosh dang.
Let's see.
I can't even like get all hostile about that. I never saw Schindler's List until I met my wife.
Sure.
I was like 27 when we met. So.
Yeah.
Like, oh, I love this movie. It's about like, isn't it about like Jewish people and whatnot? Like in concentration camp? I don't know if I'm gonna like that. I did. She was right.
Yep. And see.
And now she has it on video. It's gonna stay on the internet forever. Me admitting she was right.
Yeah. So, I guess just to illustrate things for the audience at home, I should be able to get away with this, I think. But the Department of Truth, you have page lots of like blues, these like smudged shadows, which I appreciate, and kind of everything has like this film grain feel to it, right? And you're getting and there's almost like a weird sense of like not uneasiness, but claustrophobia to it, and a lot of, you know, everything is darkened, everything is smudged up.
Well, it's meant to convey like almost like was it the monotone, like the soul stealing, like the fluorescent lights and whatnot, like back in the, like, was it the 70s? They showed movies that talked about the 70s or set in the 70s, like the lights were just like a god awful soul stealing, and like blue walls, just like the grayest bluish wall. That's the feeling I get from that. It's meant to be. Like I said, and those particular scenes are meant to make you feel like you want to get out of there. Like, like everything is dying there.
And really well said, because this character here, this is the jaded agent who's been with the department for a long time. He's the guy he sticks with it because he doesn't know anything else, but like he understands that he is trapped there essentially.
Right.
And then cut to the perspective of the new guy.
Right.
And because this wide open space, there's vibrant colors everywhere. He himself is just less shaded. And so just between those two pages, you get a really cool sense of how they decide to use colors to convey two different mindsets just a page across from each other.
I like the middle panel with the purple being used as the shadow.
Right? Yeah. Yeah. Like I said, I like, I mean, if you're creating the comic and you're not beholden to anything, like, do something weird and be experimental with it. That's
right.
Most of the stuff that I read, it usually has something weird going on with the art, or the story is interesting. Department of Truth is kind of all that, and that's why I talk about it almost every episode we do.
You should. It's actually a pretty good book. And
yeah.
I've not even read all of them. I've only like skimmed through a few of them. It's a pretty cool book. Like, at least graphically, like the artwork and whatnot.
Right. Yeah. It's
lines aren't dead on. It's not precise, but it's not meant to be.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So
that's the whole thing. Is also like it's a book about the idea of skewed realities, right? So they really play into that and really take that license to then skew realities by changing the visual perception of what you see through the line work and also through the use of colors, and you know, having this really like coming from here where it's all like harsh compliments with like one contrast there, and then, you know, this is still and even then, the light parts feel like they have a sense of grime to them because of how heavily they like put almost like a black ink over them.
Right.
And then you get to here, and you get this. You get a. It's going to sound very Pinterly of me, but you get a very creamy blend in the sky. They're going into the trees. Yeah, it's a very
creamy blend.
It's a creamy blend. Yeah, you get nice and like, it's really, it tickles the brain if you have that kind of thing going for you.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I said, it's definitely meant to show, like, evidently for the old man,
Yeah.
you know what I mean, that things are not so much bleak, but like just all life in what he's doing is gone. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Absolutely.
And then, the new vibrant guy coming in, like you see more, more. There's a whole lot of saturated colors in there, like even from the purple to the reds in the trees and stuff like that. And those were nice.
Yeah, and like we talked about like shadows and like coverings, but even I guess I haven't mentioned this, but saturation is also a whole other thing you can go into. We kind of mentioned that with like the pastels and Wolf Hunter, and then other things like Marvel has very poppy, very high saturation, high contrast colors. And you can use it to almost give it like a classical sense of heroism or just high impact, high contrast. Whereas, cutting saturation, it can give things almost like it almost gives it like that noir feeling, right? That there is something there, but it's drawn out. There, it's slow. It's not quite as in your face.
Well, that's why, I mean, one of the reasons I like Batman books, is because there are a lot of grays and blues, and it's not even really gray. It's more like it's like a Payne's gray for watercolor. Payne's gray is like a bluish gray.
Yeah.
It's not really gray. It's just like a muted blue. A lot of that in the Batman book, so that when the colors come out, like the outline around Batman's logo, or what I mean, the lights from the Batmobile, stuff like that. Any of the characters, Riddler, Joker, whatever, those colors are going to be in contrast to like the color and the gloom of Gotham and Batman himself.
Yeah.
That's why I feel that's why they stand out more. That's why you recognize, like, to me, those are like visual points in the story that I'm going to flip to like quickly because I want to see that again.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And that's using color theory to, like I said, to make you, or to not make, but like entice the reader to keep flipping to like the next page. So that contrast that you see of like the vibrant colors against the muted and grays and whatnot. Your eyes crave that. You know what I mean? You want to keep seeing that because it's like a pop in your eye. You know what I mean? Like, it sounds kind of childish, but like it's true. Like if you were flipping through a book, like, oh dude, that's awesome, and then you flip it to page gray. Oh man, there it is again. You know what I mean? You don't recognize that you're seeing it that way, but that's your eyes are seeing it like that.
Absolutely, and that's kind of knowing where you can get those little boosts of serotonin and give that to the reader, like knowing when to. This is also like a pacing thing, but the well-placed blackout panel, the well-placed cut panel, where it's like always get all of one color, like your brain immediately triggers. Is like, oh, this isn't normal. I need to know what happens next. Yeah, definitely. So we're in the last section of the show here. So I guess, do you have any apps, books, resources, things you want to recommend people check out for color theory?
There's an actual book that we got, color theory something. It's yellow with like black and red and colored stripes across it. I had to look it up, but that's a really good book. Like it has a center section that actually folds out to show like the different like patterns that you can use. You know what I mean? Like the 3-color pattern, the 2-color pattern. You know what I mean? Mono something. I'm drawing a blank on names. And then, like I said, cooler. If you use Photoshop, I don't know if there's an equivalent in Clip, but I know that Photoshop has that cooler. Like Jans or someone told us about it, and so obviously I downloaded it on my computer, and it works. Like it will help you figure out your complementary colors, be it like 2, 3, whatever. And then it'll give you the Pantone colors on the bottom so that you can like substitute those into your palette or your palette. It's pretty fun to play with.
I'm looking up
I don't think it costs anything. I don't remember paying for it. I'm pretty sure it was free. I mean, it should be since if you're already paying for Photoshop.
Right. Let's see. 2 things I was going to recommend. Book by Betty Edwards called Color, a course in mastering the art of mixing colors. So, like when I said earlier, that creamy blend. So, if you're just getting introduced to the idea of working with colors in an intentional way and figuring out what your halftones are and how you blend across the spectrum like that, this is a foundational book for just understanding how to find your halftones, when you can mix something else in, stuff like that.
All right. Oh, and the books by that dude that created Dinotopia.
Dinotopia. Oh yeah.
What is it? He has one for color, like you contrasting colors and complementary colors in your pieces, as well as like I think light and shadow. Like I think he has like 2 or 3 books. Those are really good too.
Okay. Let's see.
Oh, and there's actually a color theory for dummies.
Oh yeah.
If you haven't fully collected your 4 dummies collection, you need to add that to it. It actually is pretty good too.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, and anything for dummies is actually like surprisingly helpful.
Right?
Yeah, it's, yeah, I definitely recommend checking out their stuff.
Geez, the cover was completely different than what I thought.
The other book I had in mind is The Secret Language of Color by Ariel Eckstadt. I think that's how you pronounce her name. Ooh.
You see that?
Yeah.
That's the book I'm talking about.
Color choices, making color sense out of color theory. Yeah. Okay.
That's cool. A good one.
I'm checking that one out. Secret Language of Color by Ariel Eckstadt. This is the kind of like the psychology of color. So this is a interesting book that goes into like the historical context of why we have certain perceptions with colors and why colors have connotations with them when you're using them.
Right, and if you think about it, like the great painters and whatnot, when you're going through, when they first started, like the Baroque, you know what I mean, era into like was it? I just Impressionism and like even the Cubism, like you can tell like even the classic painters were working their way through color theory into their pieces, because
absolutely,
like, if you look at all the Baroque stuff, which personally Baroque is my favorite, tied with surrealism.
Okay.
Because I like the idea of other things being in the picture that you don't see. Not so much like the Lion King sex cloud thing, but more like you have a picture of a canoe and you don't use it as a traditional picture of a canoe in it, but it's used to make something else, like draw the eye to something else. Like I know Dali used a bunch of stuff like that, and like Dali just like that guy was crazy, but
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. I definitely get that. I appreciate Baroque stuff. I appreciate what Burke has done for like sculpting. I'm definitely a fan of surrealism into pop art. Like,
Yeah.
is it the Son of Man? The dude with the apple head
Yeah.
with the bowler hat? Yeah. That and oh wow. Can't believe I'm about to forget his name. Andy Warhol. I want to say Warnock, but that is
So I
not.
actually did a piece for Pickle Press. They had there's a picture of one of his character, Western character, female, and um they're like, oh yeah, take this. And we kind of want to make it look like Andy Warhol stuff. So like, okay. So I multiplied it and then turned each one using just the saturation and the hue
Yeah.
slider after it's colored to give each one a different hue.
Nice. Yeah.
And then contrasting aspects, like I think her hat was a different color. So like if I had like I think it was like red, I think I took red and like a purplish and a yellow and a blue or something like that. And but the hat was like then the hat started like yellow and red and purple. Like I
Okay.
made aspects of it spin
Yeah.
around.
That's super cool. Okay. Well,
And don't oversaturate anything. I don't
Mhm.
care what you'd say. Don't oversaturate anything. I did that. I learned how to not to do that because I did it.
Yeah.
I did it. Like, oh, I want this to be like this bright, but it doesn't work in the same way. Like you might think in your head there are other ways to make that happen.
Yes. Yeah. Things like oversaturating. I'd say if you're going to oversaturate one specific element of a composition, but not the entire composition, because once you understand halftones and then also essentially when you think of a color, when you think of adding a color to something, think of it in you're creating. You're not just adding one color; you're adding three tones. It's light, it's base, and it's shadow, and then the blend between. But you always have to think of those three tones, because then once you add those, you're going to find that without going into messing with the saturation overly, you're already adding so much depth.
Yeah, true.
All three of those exist in one thing. And then if you do want to make something that's absolutely in your face, then you can oversaturate. And then because you're only doing one small element, that suddenly has intention and meaning behind it. You're not just making a giant. Yeah.
And I know it's different from painting, but like we were literally taught, like if you're going to add shadows to a comic book page, don't use black. Use a different color on a different layer, using a different mode. You know what I mean? Like you want to multiply. Although if you multiply, you don't want to turn the opacity down, because multiplying something means that you're it turns it into like was it an opaque, like wash?
Yeah.
So like if you layer over it, you're gonna have, like, say you have blue and you want to layer, add like a layer of red over something, and you put it on the multiply layer. When you add over it, it's gonna be like this dark color, unless you lower the opacity of your or brighten up the color you're using.
Yeah, they definitely like. Really, ever you would use.
We're gonna have a night where we teach you how to use Photoshop.
Yeah. Oh yeah, well, I know how to use Photoshop.
Now that you're a quick master.
Yeah, I use Photoshop for other things, for like work related, and I use it for like composition photos. But I haven't used it to color with it essentially. I have done composition in Canva.
I just got Procreate on my iPad. I know a lot of people use it, but I'm kind of intimidated by it for it now, just because it's new and I don't know anything about it yet. So I got to watch a couple of videos to see.
Yeah. Like I even like, unless I'm doing something like the intention is for it to be like at night or creating like a north piece, I wouldn't use straight black to create a shadow either.
Yeah.
The idea is always to essentially, instead of doing a half step, you create a two-step, which is you take your base color and you mix it with a dark gray, and then you mix it with a black, and then the black essentially just gets used on the edge, and then you use the gray.
You can do that if you dilute down your colors, right? Because I know you can use after you like lay down your color on that, you can use inks on miniatures, right?
You can use inks. I like to use inks in crevices. If I'm just shading a flat surface, then I'll typically do that just by creating a blend across, like taking the same
that
color.
comes off a lot better than just like a regular ink wash, or
Yeah.
or you're using just like black and whatnot.
Mhm.
You're using other colors to create that ink wash. I think those make them pop pretty good.
Yeah.
Just in
And
my experience.
yeah. The only time I would use an overall ink wash is if I'm dealing with machinery, because it kind of gives you the oil stain effect, and then I'll use it through an airbrush.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Airbrush, that intimidates me a little bit too.
Yeah, airbrush is fun. You can get pretty decent portable ones now that have like a USB charged miniature air compressor.
Right.
Only thing is you have to give it a lot of time to set between bursts because it needs time to recompress essentially.
Right.
But yeah. Any last thoughts on color theory before it sends people home for the night?
I think we pretty much covered it. We went over a lot.
Yeah.
Remember when the video is posted, you can go back us up and listen to us.
Yeah. The professor I had for color theory opened the class with the statement that we would look at world differently after taking class, and his words are correct. Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And I mean, yeah, it's a whole thing where like now, like I am the annoying guy that makes like the group stop if we're walking through downtown to look at street art, especially if the street art is really good.
There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. You make your friends stop.
Yeah. Because like I mean, especially if you can get like good blends just with rattle can, that's
Right.
yeah. But yeah, understanding how to convey a shadow without relying on throwing ink on a canvas or going straight black, or if you get weird with it and turn your black into a glaze, thin it down a ton. And then you end up and so it's just your base color existing and it's just like a hint of black somewhere in there, and then it almost becomes like a weird optical illusion.
Right.
Yeah. But yeah, we went through a lot. So yeah, we have sections on psychology, accompanying colors, tones, giving emotion, artistic intent. So hopefully, if you're watching this, you found it help something in between. So we'll be back next week. We have a topic. What are we talking about? I have too many chats open.
Stop chatting to so many people.
I would like to.
I don't believe you.
Let's see. Oh no, it's over here.
Oh, by the way, I started playing Weird West on my Xbox.
Oh yeah, how are you liking it?
I'm like, I die a lot.
Yeah.
It took me forever to figure out how to buy bullets, how to get money to buy bullets, but it's progressing a little better now.
Yeah. I just started a new playthrough of BattleTech, which is
Nice.
Yeah, and I've also I got into 3D printing over the last week. I got a 3D printer for Christmas. So I have started 3D printing.
That means you're never gonna run out of minis to paint.
Exactly. Yeah. So I started 3D printing stuff for BattleTech. Now I'm, speaking of color theory, going to be painting them a blue, like a dark blue modeled with charcoal type thing. Yeah.
So are you just pulling up stills, or are you doing the 3D modeling?
I'm not doing the 3D modeling yet. I want to get into that, but that's yeah. All right, I'll be
Talk to Andrew.
Yeah. Okay.
I know that when we were going through art school, Andrew Caicedo was teaching, like he was the student in the school, but after school he was teaching 3D modeling. I don't think he was using Maya. I think he was using ZBrush.
Okay. Yeah.
But yeah, he was teaching 3D modeling. He might help you out.
There you go.
I'll show you a few things.
I have a guy in our group who he went through Full Sail for 3D art.
For game design?
Yeah. And so
he used Maya.
Yeah. And
Maya and ZBrush.
And so now he's like, hey, if I make 3D models for you, can you print these out for me?
Right?
And so yeah,
Tim, I might be spending use of files.
yeah,
Yeah, I need stuff done. You need to make this happen.
exactly. So yeah, I've been printing just a ton of minis recently.
That's awesome.
Next week we're going to be talking about lettering. So actually throwing letters on a page, which is something that I have done.
What do you use for lettering?
Adobe Illustrator.
Yes.
Yeah.
The Illustrator is the best program to use
Yes.
for lettering. I don't know anybody that like uses anything different, but we'll talk about that next week.
Before we go live next week, I'm going to try at some point in the weekend to try lettering a page with Microsoft Paint and see how that goes. I feel like that will be a terrible.
You don't like yourself. That's what I'm hearing. You don't like yourself.
It's going to be terrible, but I can say I did it, and we can.
And we're going to share it, right? You're going to share it on the
Yes,
stream.
exactly.
I have to see it.
Oh yeah, we'll be
That's
good.
fantastic.
Yeah, good. Yeah. So next week we're going to be talking about lettering. So if you are interested in lettering, or if you're a writer in a comic and you're tired or you don't have the money to hire another person after you hired your illustrator and colorist, you should learn how to letter.
Okay, let's be honest.
Yeah.
Illustrator is going to get paid the most. The penciler is going to
yeah.
get paid the most, like just hands down.
Yeah.
So as a writer, if you want to write, and then you have to wait however long it takes for it to go down the chain, penciler, inker, colorist, right? I feel that you want to see your project again.
Yeah.
So you start learning how to letter. So like, oh, I get to see it again. The prodigal son returns.
Exactly. Yeah. And especially now with a lot of like indie projects, like just being essentially, 2 to 3 people. You may not have any choice but to be your own letterer. Especially like if you have budgetary constraints, if you have timeline constraints, anything like that. So it's definitely a very important skill, and also it's something that can also make or break a comic, because I have seen bad letters that have just absolutely trashed pages.
True. Yep. Very true.
All right.
Awesome. It's gonna be a fun stream.
Absolutely. All right, so we'll see you guys all next week. We do have a commercial. I'm going to run that real quick. We do have a Kickstarter running right now. We're going to throw the ad on for that. And then we'll be back at the end to wish you all a good night. That's right. We have Divinity and Trump's. Divinity this is currently issue number 3 of 4. Trump's is 4 of 4, so this is going to be the completed series up on Kickstarter. 4 days left to go. We're currently at $3,275 of our $3,500 goal. So if you're interested in getting the completed Trump's or getting your next issue of Divinity, now that we're getting close to the end here, make sure to head over to Kickstarter. Look up Silverline Comics and go ahead and back that. We will hopefully have our update on how we do next week. But be sure to check out Silverline's Wednesday Wham 8 p.m. Eastern tomorrow, and Silver Sunday 8 p.m. Eastern on Sunday. And we'll be back again.
They're all right.
They're all right.
They're not as entertaining as us, but
yeah. And they don't give you hour 20. They don't give you like college course length discussions on color theory. Yeah. We'll be back next week talking about lettering.
We're going to talk to Roland to see if people that watch this can claim it as a credit.
Exactly. Yeah. Silverline Community College.
Right.
Yes. All right. Well, hope you all guys have a great night, and we will see you next week. Until that time,
Make mine
Big Man
Silverline.
Silverline.
I'm April Hunter. Make mine Silverline.
All right.